Have you ever felt like your life is being tested, but no one warned you? As if everything that is falling apart now is actually a spiritual call in disguise? Well, maybe you are one of the 144,000 chosen, and don't even know it yet. First of all, if this message touches something inside you, comment below on number 144. Who knows, maybe you too are among those who have been called, even in silence. What no one tells you is that the final examination of the soul has already begun. And it has no date, no teacher, no warning, only the most attentive notice. While many are chasing earthly goals, some are being spiritually activated, silently, guided by strange symptoms, unexplained pain, and an inexplicable desire to change everything. The most shocking? Not everyone will pass. But not for lack of capacity, for lack of perception. And that's exactly why the chosen 144,000 are moving in the shadows, not to hide, but because true spiritual awakening doesn't happen on stage. It happens in the dark. What you're going to see here isn't an esoteric theory, it's a mirror. And maybe, just maybe, you are among those who are already being prepared for something immense. But before the mission, comes the test. There are people who think that the final spiritual exam comes with a written test or a flashing light in the sky. But the truth is that he arrived sneaky, disguised as loss, disappointment and silence. That friendship that cooled, the job that slipped through his hands, the health that fluctuated without explanation, it was all part of it. It was in the invisible that you began to be polished. And, without realizing it, he plunged into the dark night of the soul, where many of the 144,000 chosen already walk in silence. Most of this process happens behind the scenes of the soul. There is no audience, there is no warning. The person begins to move away from everything that seemed to make sense before. Suddenly, she feels a deep tiredness, a desire to be alone, and a strange feeling that something bigger is coming. These are symptoms of awakening that do not always come with flowers. Sometimes they come with inexplicable pain and confusion between worlds. This type of test doesn't measure how much you know, but how much you can stand when everything seems to fall apart. And then, while the world demands productivity, you feel the divine call pushing you inwards. Within himself. It is there that the real exam takes place. And it is also there that the spiritual mission begins, even before you understand what is happening. Many people look back and realize that the spiritual signs have always been there, but they were too busy to notice. The high frequency is not in tune with the unbridled rush, you know. Sometimes, it is in stopped traffic, in the lonely tear or in the silence of a weekend that it all begins. Who writes down their dreams, observes the patterns and feels this sudden social distancing? He has already begun to notice. Spiritual activation is subtle, but unmistakable. And the most curious thing is that, in this process, the universe acts as an invisible mentor. Everything that no longer serves begins to crumble. Relationships, habits, environments, everything collapses as part of the polishing. You weren't being punished, was being trained. Prepared. But this only makes sense after it passes. Because true spiritual awakening only shows its answers when you have already become someone else. Anyone who thinks that the final spiritual examination requires technical knowledge or memorization of scriptures is mistaken. The true test of the soul measures intention. It's easy to seem compassionate when everything is going well. But what about when someone cheats on you? And when no one sees? That's where inner coherence comes in, what you are when no one is looking. High frequency vibrates in integrity, not appearance. This invisible exam evaluates your resilience in the face of pain and your surrender in dark days. When life takes the floor, many scream, few pray. And the 144,000 chosen, silence. They feel the pain, but they don't drown in it. They recognize the divine call even in the noise of chaos. And they continue, even if they don't understand where they are going. Every decision made in silence, to help without being seen, to forgive without applause, to persist without external motivation, adds up to invisible points. Spiritual mission begins before recognition. It's like tending to a garden in the dark, not knowing if it will bloom. But it flourishes. And when it flourishes, the higher consciousness settles in without asking permission. Often, the universe puts someone in your life just to see how you react. Have you noticed that? A difficult person crosses your path, not by chance, but like a mirror. If you respond with empathy, even tired, you pass. It's as if life asks, are you ready to be a channel of light, even when you're exhausted? And there, without realizing it, you deliver the right answer. The beauty of this exam is that it does not demand perfection, but truth. Whoever fails today, tries again tomorrow. And it is thus, little by little, that spiritual activation is consolidated. Not because of absolute success, but because of the constant intention to grow. And those who grow up in this silence begin to feel symptoms of awakening that can no longer be ignored. Suddenly, the body weighs down, sleep comes at odd hours, and fatigue has no medical explanation. It's not laziness, nor anxiety. It is the beginning of spiritual activation. The energy field begins to adjust to the new higher frequency, and this impacts the physical and emotional body. Many people feel this and blame themselves, not knowing that they are responding to a divine call. The feeling of being between two worlds begins to be constant. You look at ordinary life, work, routine, superficial conversations, and everything seems empty. And at the same time, he feels an urgency in his chest, as if a spiritual mission was about to be revealed. It's confusing, yes. But it is also one of the first spiritual signs of awakening. The mind begins to reject distractions. Violent films bother, gossip loses its fun, crowds cause discomfort. It is social distancing that comes before expansion. It is the preparation for the reunion of souls that vibrate at the same frequency. Many of the 144,000 chosen have come to prefer silence to noise, because only in silence can you hear the soul. And along with that, synchronicities arise, repeated numbers, recurring dreams, unusual encounters with people who say exactly what you need to hear. These coincidences are symptoms of awakening. If you've seen the number 1111 more than once a week, or feel an unexplained presence before you go to sleep, you're being called to something greater. At this stage, taking care of the body is essential. Alkaline water, light food, baths with coarse salt and nature walks help a lot. It's like tuning an instrument. Meditating is also crucial. Start with 10 minutes a day listening to mantras like Gayatri or Are Madasa. All of this facilitates the planetary transition within you, and prepares the ground for the next stage of awakening. Much is said about the 144,000 chosen, as if they were a spiritual, unreachable elite with supernatural powers. But the truth is much simpler, and deeper. These beings are not the best, they are just the ones who listened. They listened to the divine call even in the midst of pain, doubt and the dark night of the soul. They agreed to wake up when it was still more comfortable to sleep. What defines these 144,000 is not the title, it is the frequency. They are ordinary people, mothers, teachers, app drivers, who vibrate in compassion, truth and purpose. They do not wear a cape, but carry light. They are those who, even without understanding why, feel that they have a spiritual mission to fulfill. And this pulsates in the chest, day after day. These souls have something in common: surrender. It is not a matter of knowing everything, but of trusting even without answers. Higher consciousness guides you like an inner compass. Even without a map, they follow the heart. Many have experienced unexplained pain, rejection, a sense of not belonging, all part of spiritual activation. You may be one of them without knowing it. Have you ever had that feeling that you are here for something bigger, but you still don't know what? Have you ever felt synchronicities calling you, vivid dreams, or had a sudden urge to change everything? These are strong spiritual signs. And usually, they intensify as the time for the reunion of souls approaches. There is no ceremony, no badge that says, you have been chosen. Recognition happens from within. Suddenly, you feel like you can't put it off anymore. The mission begins to call you, consume you, transform you. And it is at this point that life changes without warning, as if a new version of you had been activated, in silence. There's a profound reason why the test doesn't come with applause or signs saying, you're on the right track. The 144,000 chosen do not learn with the spotlight, they learn in the dark. The most real spiritual evolution happens when no one sees. When the ego cannot feed on recognition. It is in this silence that the soul proves its maturity. If everything were public, the intention would be contaminated. The silent test is a refinement. In it, the person learns to act with purity even without external reward. Higher consciousness reveals itself within, not on stage. And the universe, as a wise master, silently observes, will he love even without being loved back? The greatest masters who have ever walked this planet have been tested like this. Jesus, Buddha, Francis of Assisi. Everyone went through loneliness, abandonment, rejection. It was not punishment, it was stoning. They already carried the channel of light within themselves, but they needed to go through the dark night of the soul to recognize their own spiritual mission. That is why, in the most difficult moments, everything seems to be in ruins. It's not bad luck, it's an invisible construction. When you are torn from where you were, it is because something greater needs to be born. And this birth requires silence. It requires recollection. Because it is only in a vacuum that the high frequency can settle in without noise. Those who understand this begin to look at pain with different eyes. He begins to accept that the silence of the universe is not absence, it is strategy. And in that silence, something begins to move inside. A subtle recognition, a new presence, as if the most intense moment of the awakening process was approaching. The pain that many feel now, physical, emotional, existential, is not punishment, it is refinement. It is the moment when the soul begins to burn away all that is illusion. When nothing else seems to make sense, when laughter is rare and the chest is heavy. It is there that the dark night of the soul shows its deepest face. The chosen 144,000 go through this not because they are weak, but because they are almost ready. This final stage of cutting is like the fire that shapes gold. It burns, yes. But it reveals what is real. What you thought was essential goes away. People, beliefs, even old plans go up in smoke. And all that's left is you, raw, vulnerable, but closer to your essence than ever before. Spiritual activation comes to this point in full force. Those who are living this stage realize that the external world no longer brings relief. Nothing fulfills. And, even without wanting to, he begins to search within. Books like The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle, or the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying take on another flavor. They are no longer theory, they are anchors. And slowly, a new clarity emerges, this is all part of the divine calling. It is in this pain that many truly awaken. You can't pretend anymore, to postpone, to be distracted. The symptoms of awakening intensify, insomnia, crying spells, vivid dreams, feeling that something is about to happen. It's not crazy. It is the soul saying, now go. And when the soul speaks like this, the body feels, the spirit moves, and the past begins to crumble. Everything seems to crumble, but it's just the old making room for the new. And in this process, those who survive with an open heart discover something rare, a peace that does not depend on anything. A faith that needs no guarantees. A reunion with oneself so profound that it transforms pain into presence. And this presence is the prelude to the next sign. Many people pass the final spiritual exam without even realizing it. And the most curious thing is that, after the storm, comes a peace that makes no sense. It is as if, suddenly, the external chaos no longer affects so much. It's not alienation, it's high frequency. The 144,000 chosen recognize this quiet peace as a clear sign that something has changed inside. You start to feel like you're in the right place, even if everything is still uncertain. A strange confidence arises, as if someone has put a hand on your shoulder and said, "Now go." The spiritual mission begins to take shape, and the spiritual signs become more intense. White feathers, songs that look like messages, key words in random conversations. Another indication is the presence of the so-called absurd synchronicities. People you've been thinking about for years reappear. Projects that seemed lost line up. Places you never imagined visiting start calling. Everything seems to be part of an invisible map. And anyone who has gone through spiritual awakening knows, the universe does not get the timing wrong. Loneliness also changes flavor. It ceases to be painful and becomes sacred. You begin to value silence, nature, your own company. He begins to write, meditate, contemplate. And you understand that this is all part of your spiritual activation. After all, before you can serve others as a channel of light, you need to be full of yourself, full of presence, purpose, and truth. These signs do not come with a stamp of approval, but they come with a silent certainty. That feeling of, "I'm not who I used to be anymore." You feel like something is about to start, even without knowing what it is. It's like being on top of a mountain, taking a deep breath, and hearing the echo of a call that is only now beginning to make sense. Not everyone wakes up on the first call. And that's okay. The divine call does not scream, it whispers. And those who are still immersed in the distractions of the world may simply not listen. It's not a punishment, it's a cycle. Those who ignore the spiritual signs continue to walk the same road, until the pain becomes impossible to ignore. Repetition is the name of the game. The person lives the same emotional patterns, attracts the same types of relationships, faces the same internal conflicts. And he wonders, why does this always happen to me? The answer is simple, you have not yet recognized the final spiritual examination disguised in these challenges. He has not yet realized the opportunity hidden in the chaos. Spiritual awakening takes courage, and not everyone is ready for it now. Some will need more falls, more silences, more dark nights of the soul until something inside finally says, enough. But even in these cases, the light never goes out completely. She waits. It waits for the right time, the exact moment when the soul decides it wants to remember. Those who are still spiritually asleep tend to seek relief in external things, shopping, digital distractions, superficial relationships. But none of this fulfills it. It's like drinking salt water, it seems to satiate, but it only increases thirst. And one day, the soul charges. With unexplained pain, existential crises, or that void that nothing else can fill. And at this point, even the most resistant begin to question. They feel that something is out of place, that normal life no longer makes sense. And that discomfort, that little crack. It's the beginning of everything. This is where spiritual activation can take place. But, of course, only for those who are ready to let the old man die and really hear what comes next. After the final spiritual examination is passed, without spotlights, without trophies, something changes profoundly. An almost uncontrollable desire to serve begins to be born. It is no longer a matter of doing something for recognition, but for purpose. The 144,000 chosen ones feel it firsthand, as if something pushes them to be useful, to be a channel of light in other people's lives. And there is no turning back. You start to notice old gifts coming back. Increased sensitivity, intuition surfaced, empathy that almost hurts. It is as if your soul, now activated, is operating at a high frequency. And in that new vibration, you attract other awakened souls. The reunion of souls does not only happen in dreams, it begins to manifest itself in real life, in encounters that seem magical. This new phase is accompanied by absurd clarity. You know what you need to cut, who you need to talk to, where you need to go. It's not about having a plan, but about trusting the flow. And the most beautiful? It's that you stop waiting for external validation. The higher consciousness guides you so strongly that even the old fears begin to dissolve. The spiritual mission begins to manifest itself on a daily basis. It can be helping a stranger on the street, starting a healing project, writing something that inspires. It doesn't have to be grandiose, it has to be true. And those who live this divine call understand, now I am the answer I was looking for. Now I am a bridge. Now I'm part of the bigger plan. And then, in the middle of this new rhythm of life, something begins to form in the invisible, as if other people were awakening at the same time. As if something collective was about to happen. The feeling that you are part of something bigger intensifies. And at that point, the universe sets the stage for the most powerful moment of all, the reunion. When the chosen 144,000 begin to meet, something almost inexplicable happens. The frequency changes, the air vibrates differently, and even the time seems to adjust. These are meetings that have not been scheduled, but were already written. There's no way to force it, it just happens. And when it happens, the light channel opens at full power. These reunions aren't just exciting, they're catalysts. One awakens the other. It's like lighting a candle with another already lit. Words flow effortlessly, looks say it all. They recognize each other even though they have never seen each other. And you feel, in your body, that the planetary transition is accelerating. It is a time of deep collective spiritual awakening. These connections begin to form small groups, and these groups impact cities, communities, social networks. It is an invisible force that begins to alter the vibrational field of the planet. Projects of healing, education, spirituality, art and consciousness come naturally. It's as if an old code is being activated en masse. And it is. At this point, the spiritual mission gains a new level of strength. It's no longer me, it's we. Each soul that joins raises the vibration of the whole. And the symptoms of awakening become shared experiences, visions, dreams, sensations. There is no longer any doubt. The higher consciousness is in charge. And the invisible network of the awakened begins to act on a global scale. This meeting is the beginning of a new reality. Not a utopia, but a real, firm, palpable transition. You feel it when you talk to someone and the person's eyes light up. When similar ideas arise in opposite places in the world. When intuition becomes a compass. And at that point, everything changes, but it doesn't end. On the contrary. It is now that it begins. And now that you know all this, what are you going to do with this truth? Are you going to pretend that nothing happened, or are you going to start observing the spiritual signs that have been poking you for a long time? Because the truth is simple, either you wake up, or the cycle repeats itself. Do you really want to stay on autopilot while your spiritual mission screams inside your chest? Or will you finally accept that you have been called, and that you have been through a lot precisely to get here? If these awakening symptoms make sense to you, if this text stirred something inside, then maybe you've already been activated. The question is, what are you going to do now? Are you going to look for more? Are you going to get ready? Will it join the other channels of light that are appearing around the world? Tell me in the comments, do you feel like you're part of the 144,000 chosen? And if this content touched something that no one else has been able to touch, subscribe here to the channel and activate notifications. Because from now on, we are going to talk about big things. Soul stuff. Something that transforms. And I want you along on this journey.